Seriously, this is the most intimate thing somebody can do. For all y'all that are at the end of a step study and about to go on your journey of writing a testimony, props to you. It is really a wonderful thing that you can do to your fellow CR family and to anybody else that is on their journey of coming free of their chains. Father God, praise your holy name we do. Please take away my nerves and let me speak clearly and use this testimony to help someone else. And may it bring you honor and glory in Jesus' name. Hi, I'm Holly. I'm a faithful believer in Jesus Christ. I am delivered by Christ from alcohol, drugs, and cigarettes, but I still struggle with codependency, grief, resentment, trust, anger, self-worth, self-image, self-esteem, self-loathing, and sometimes food.
Hey, Holly.
Hey. My mom and dad, my mom was abused by her mother really bad. And my dad, when he was like 9 years old, him and his brothers got home from school and they were looking for their mom in their house. And they looked everywhere and went upstairs and found their mother hanging in the attic. So, you know, generational stuff happens. But my mom and dad got married when they were 20. And my mom didn't know it, but my dad, well, I don't know whether she knew it or not, but he was a paranoid schizophrenic and he beat her really bad. One time when she was 6 months pregnant with me, he hit her so hard in the face that she flew over the bed and into the wall. She left him and he went into the Marines. I was born in 1970 and we lived in Detroit, Michigan. My first memories were of a boyfriend she had that took us camping and hiking, and he played in a band in our living room. I was 5 when they broke up, and it was party time for my mom. I remember walking into the bathroom, and she had a belt around her arm. I would later realize that she was shooting up. I would get left with sitters that were children themselves or left by myself. The first time I remember being molested was by a girl that was just a few years older than me. The next was by a 23-year-old man when I was 7. My mom had already been smoking weed with me at this point. It was our secret. When I was 10, a guy broke into our house and raped my mom, so her dad moved us into a suburb. The landlord there was not going to let us keep our cat, but he said if I came with them to church every Wednesday night that I could keep it. So I did. I did really well at first, singing in the choir and watching the kids in the nursery and going to classes and learning about Jesus' love for me. But as time went on and I was dealing with my mother's lifestyle, I started going to the grocery store across the street and stealing cigarettes and just hanging out until it was time to go home, and then I stopped going altogether. My mom had the business of buying the kids in the neighborhood alcohol and selling them joints and dime bags for her vodka and beer money. Everyone in my school knew her before they knew me, or knew me because of her. She was funny and everyone loved her. I started hanging out with an older girl and trying to fit in and having sex with guys for attention. I got pregnant at 14. and later would have to have 3 paternity tests before finding my son's father. My mom never knew I was pregnant until I gave birth to my son. That's how out of it she was. Just after having my first child, a guy, 22, that would come over and party at my house, started taking me out, which my mom didn't even care. But anyway, I got pregnant and had twins. 5 months after having our twins, we went to the doctor to see if I was pregnant again, and it was too early, so they drew blood. On the way home, he says to me, "You're gonna have to abort if you're pregnant." And I said I didn't know if I could do that. When we got home, he sat out in the driveway and he called me out there and he gave me a great big hug. And he said that there would be room for more, not to worry. He said that he was going to go to a friend of his and have a couple of beers and he would be home early. He went to where he knew that there was a loaded gun. He asked to hold it. He stood up in front of 2 small children and said goodbye and shot himself in the head. 2 days later, the doctor's office called me to tell me I wasn't pregnant. I had my girlfriend and her friends start coming over, and I started numbing my pain with drugs and alcohol and crowds of people. I did get pregnant and did have an abortion. Then, on January 4th, 1988, 2 days after my twins' first birthday, my grandmother had just taken me to pay the electric bill, and we had lunch, and I put my twins down for a nap. My oldest boy was sitting at my feet in the living room, and he looked up at me and he said, "Mom, fire," with his eyes as big as saucers. I stood up and I said, "What?" Because I didn't hear or see or smell anything. And when I stood up, the whole baby's room was engulfed in flames. And I didn't even know what happened to my son when I stood up. I just ran right in there because I saw my baby standing in his crib, looking at me, rocking back and forth. I ran right in and I swooped him up underneath his armpits, and I felt for the other baby, and I couldn't feel him. And I'm standing there with black smoke billowing up all around us and flames, and my hair was gone, and my baby was standing there sitting in my arms, and he was burning. His hair was gone, and I can't feel my other baby. And I had to make the decision, the worst decision of my life, to leave the room without my other baby. It was an electric radiator that was plugged into an extension cord that melted that started the fire. The night before that happened, I got pregnant with my daughter. My son and I spent 2 weeks in separate hospitals and almost a year of visiting nurses, but now we were homeless and we had nothing. Blessed are those that mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. My girlfriend and her family not only rented me a place to live, but they were the only people that came to my baby's funeral. None of my family did, and only a handful of the people that partied at my house came to my baby's funeral. I didn't even know them really, but they came to my baby's funeral. My friend's aunt lived next door, and she went to church, and her church filled my house, not my house, but the girl that rented it to me, with everything that I might need, showing me again the love that God wanted to freely give me. Yet I was still so buried in guilt and self-loathing that I couldn't see it. This house became condemned, though. a bunch of guys drove up to the house on CB radios, and they were gonna beat somebody up. But anyway, I talked with one of the guys and ended up, they let me move into their dad's house, and their dad wasn't gonna feed my kids. So I ended up calling the police on myself, and DSS and the police had to come and take my 3 kids. And I visited them and built my life back up for the next 9 months. And I ended up marrying that guy and having 2 more kids. So I had 6 kids before I was 21 years old. I wrote a letter to the state of Michigan begging them to tie my tubes after I had my last baby, and they complied. Our marriage was a drunken mess, and I caused a bunch of damage. He said that I slept with 7 of his friends, and he was probably right. I got a call from the hospital telling me that my mom was going to not make it through the night, and if I could come. So I did, and I watched my mom take her last breath at midnight on May 1st in 1992. I thought I could make a better way for my kids, getting away from that guy and just being by myself with my kids. But I ended up letting a friend come and stay with us, and she was not healthy for me. She was addicted to crack, and I ended up starting to smoke crack with her. For 3 months, we smoked crack together. I knew I couldn't keep doing what I was doing, and the guy across the street was 17 years older than me, and he said that we could move in there with the condition of no drugs, so no crack, because he smoked pot. But anyway, we moved in there, and I didn't smoke crack, and she wanted to continue to smoke crack, so we split ways. Thank God. My oldest boy and the remaining twin were out riding bikes, and they came up to the door with a group of kids asking to go to the store. Robert, the remaining twin, was hit by a car, and he lived for 4 days by machines only and passed on September 26, 1992, and I watched him take his last breath. I was now in a controlled environment. I only drank when my kids went to bed, and even after court-ordered AA meetings. Always high. Keeping all my emotions from all these deaths away so I didn't have to deal with them for the next 8 years. I knew I was going to end up like my mom if I didn't make a big change. In 1998, in a naughty chat room, because it was all I knew how to do, I met a guy. But hey, he didn't drink, smoke, or do drugs. So I printed out directions off of Yahoo Maps, and I drove all the way from Detroit, Michigan, here to Aiken, South Carolina for my first road trip with my kids. We had a great time, and we went back up north long enough to pack a U-Haul truck and drive back. This is where I admitted I was powerless over my addictions and my compulsive behaviors, and that my life had become unmanageable. I know that nothing good lives in me, that is, in my sinful nature, for I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. Romans 7:18. One day I was going through my emails, and a lady had replied saying she didn't feel comfortable because she knew my boyfriend. And I was like, what? And so I looked at my sent emails, and there were a couple of sent emails that I didn't send. So I printed all this out, and I drove to where my boyfriend was, and I asked him, what is this? And he was trying to get a couple. So anyway, I said, do you want me to drive back to Michigan because this is not what I wanted? And he said no, that he loved me and he wanted me to stay, that he would not do that again. So this made me feel something was wrong with me, that I was not what this guy wanted. The next time I busted him, he pulled over the car and he started crying and he says how much he loves me and that he wanted to marry me right then. And I said, no way, this is not the kind of lifestyle that I wanted, and trust was broken. But in my broken mind, I'm saying, look at who he took in, a broken addict that is overweight with all these kids, yet I buried my pain in food, only making it worse. Plus, I deserved it. I caused everyone to die, and I slept with all these people. In my mind, this was my punishment. We reap what we sow. I did not know how to be a sober person. I had been high since I was 6 and numbing since I was 17. And here I was 30 and sober and ignorant. Any stress, fights, or feelings, and I was locking myself in the bathroom and cutting and burning myself. That was better than drinking or smoking dope. That was all I knew to do at the time to cope. I started attending church, but still did not surrender fully to God. John Baker says, we may have been stuck in our hurt, habit, or hang-up, harmful habit or hang-up, for so long that it becomes part of who we perceive our identity, part of who we feel we are. Things with my boyfriend were great for a good while, so I thought he was serious about not doing that kind of thing anymore. So we were married 2 years after we came to South Carolina. In 2008, he accidentally left his cell phone at home, and there was a text from a girl. He said he was trying to find me a massage therapist for our anniversary that was coming up. He sweet-talked me again, and this became a cycle. In 2011, I relapsed. My friend from Detroit came to visit me, and we went to a hotel and drank. And I mean drank. I knew she was coming, and I knew that's what we were going to do. I woke up face down in a pile of my own vomit. I'm so lucky I didn't inhale the vomit and choke to death and die. I lied to my husband about my son being there. It was a mess. My son told his mom how messed up we got. I was caught in my lie right away. God changed me that year. He took any desire for alcohol, drugs, and then cigarettes that year. I'm so grateful for that. I met my dad for the first time in 2012. He was on a fixed income, so the only way he could come and keep his place was to visit for the whole month. He paid his rent, got a Greyhound ticket, and I fed him for the whole month, and then he went back. The only problem was my mouth. I told him all that. Do you think he enjoyed that very much? Do you think he thought I was a great kid? No. He got on the bus and he went back home and he didn't answer my phone call. And then when he did, he told me I was no good. And that's okay. My oldest son found out he had a daughter that was 8 years old in 2017, and her mom came to me and told me that my husband was stalking her under a fake Facebook account and showed me screenshots of him sending her messages in Messenger saying how beautiful she was. I went on that Facebook account, and sure enough, it was my husband pretending to be someone else. When confronted, he said that he wanted to get caught and that he didn't feel like the same person that was doing that. Because of this, my husband took me to a church function called A Love Worth Fighting For with Kirk Cameron. It was expensive. My husband bought the DVD and the t-shirts. After all of this, I found a message where he was asking a young guy where he could find any hoes that only needed a little money. I fall short every day, and I need forgiveness. Because of Celebrate Recovery and several step studies, despite going to 5 different counselors throughout our 22 years, I have been able to forgive my husband over and again. There is still no transparency, no deep communication, no visible work on our relationship, no visible work on making our relationship good. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace, not evil, to give you an expected end. Jeremiah 29:11. Step 2, I came to believe that a high power greater than myself can restore me to sanity, for it is God who works in you to will and to act according to his good purpose. Philippians 2:13. Step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord. Lamentations 4:30. The sum of all of this is that I needed to be loved. It wasn't until I fully understood God's love for me in sending his son to die for me while I was yet a sinner that I realized I have always been perfectly loved. He was and is the lover I was searching for all along. I am grateful to be growing in Christ with this family right here. You all are my forever family, and I love you, and I'm grateful to be intimate right here with this, right now, with you all. Thank you for letting me share.